Welcome to Athletic Ambitions with me, Fiona Carter.
And me, Tom Bartlett.
We are here to share the stories of our CASS and Friends athletes, aspiring Olympians and world champions. We will also interview elite athletes and professionals. They will be sharing their stories, the ups and downs and bumpy ride that their journey may have. We will learn how they persevere and deal with setbacks, train and compete at the highest level, and how their mindset helps with every step of the way. So if you want to hear about our upcoming athletes and learn from the best, this podcast is for you.
This is Athletic Ambitions, where every journey begins with a single step.
Nikki, thank you so much for coming on to do our podcast for the Athletic Ambitions podcast. And so welcome to Nikki, who's our ambassador. And we are absolutely delighted to have Nikki as our ambassador because she is just so inspiring, talented, joy of life character who is a local girl, went to one of our local schools, Bourneside in Cheltenham. So welcome to the podcast. And just to give everybody an idea of how brilliant she is, she's won over 20 Ironman races or podiumed on over 20 Ironman races or 70.3 races with multiple wins in there. And so, an absolute legend of the sport. So thank you very much for coming on today.
Oh, thanks, Phil. What a lovely introduction. Thanks for having me on.
That's okay. So Nikki, let's just chat about young athletes and their sport and how we can help them, because that's the idea behind CASS and Friends, as you know, is to sort of give them some funding, but also to sort of help with their mindset. But also we want to help them when they leave us aged 18, how they can manage a career in sport. So maybe tell us just a little bit about your career in sport and how you manage sponsors, deal with sponsors, that type of thing. That might be quite a nice thing to start with.
Okay, well, I started kind of sport, and I've been doing it all my life, but I started elite sport, so to speak, probably well into my 20s. So you could say that's quite late to start elite sport. But fundamentally, what set me up so well for when I started was just having a whole wealth of play, basically, in loads of different sports. Like, for instance, in athletics, I was kind of like that kid who was not brilliant at one thing, but could do multiple things. But like, athletics was my main sport. And that set me up so well for now, because I had loads of plyometrics, loads of bounding, loads of kind of that kind of plyometric and load through the lower limb. So, but basically, my biggest part of all of it was just having so much fun along the way, and basically just setting yourself up so well to have that kind of continuity in sport. Everyone's so different in what they see as fun, what they see as what drives them, and everyone's so different around what kind of success means to them. So it's basically finding your why and finding what works for you. And for me, just having a kind of balance is quite a hard word, but points of time in your life where you are also doing a lot of other things other than sport. So obviously for me at the time when I was like 18, like these kids, I was still going out partying a lot. And that's allowed me to have kind of all this progression to be able to still be loving the sport, loving what I'm doing now, and just absolutely driven still to try and be the best version I could be in sport and life at the age of nearly 37. So it is about finding what ticks for you and what works for you, because obviously a lot of people don't want to go out partying all night long. But understanding what makes you happy. So whether that's, making time to see friends still, making time to go out for dinner. If it's you want to see family still, like, can you do your training along the way to see your family? Can you involve the family in any way? Making sure you're kind of just not isolating yourself in what you're doing, and for making it longevity being the key thing, and making sure you find what works for you in that regard. And I'm still doing that today in what I'm doing. So, for instance, tomorrow I'm doing this sportive, and like it could take, I don't know, I think average it's like 7 to 10 hours, and it could take like 9 hours. So it's not something I think I need to do for the training and the race I'm going towards. But for me, I'm going out and doing it with some friends. It's going to be a good laugh. It's gorgeous scenery in the peaks. It's going to be a beautiful day. All day buffet on the bike. Everything I love. For me, and cake. For me, that's really important. To be doing stuff like that. But obviously, I can't be doing stuff like that all the time because I'm going to be absolutely smashed on Monday, and I've got like my key swim on Monday. So you are compromising a little bit there. But for me, I need that kind of adventure side in my training to keep me enjoying it, and also doing it with a variety of friends.
Yeah, do you know what? I think you've just hit on so many really, really valuable points, because as an elite athlete, as a person with a career in sport, if you put absolutely every single ounce of you into it, you are making so many sacrifices, aren't you? And if you make so many sacrifices and then wins don't come in, or the race doesn't go according to plan, it probably, I'm just assuming, it would feel like such a much more of a blow. I was just watching a bit of the series with Naomi Osaka, the Japanese tennis player, and that came across very much in the series, where she's sacrificing so much, whereas it feels like you're able to. Obviously, it's you're doing it in a very professional way, but balancing that, like tomorrow is going to be a right laugh with friends, eating cake, having just a great time on the bike, and it probably will be an awesome training session as well.
Yeah, definitely. So, like, I'm doing it with some guys who are just going to be pushing me on throughout.
Yeah.
I might let them go at some point though, because I don't want to come away having think I've raced for like 9 hours.
Yeah.
But just going out of your comfort zone a bit and just kind of going with the flow. But you just need to know what's important for you. So it's like writing that down and writing what's important for you down, because actually some people might think that what I'm doing tomorrow is that idea of hell. So like that might put them off doing something that I'm doing tomorrow. So it's actually just finding what works for you and getting that balance. And I even do that with some stuff. Like I like to look at data a lot, but in other aspects I just be like, right, just need to come away from data for a bit. Not make it too full on. But for other people that would not, that wouldn't sit well with them, or not sit well, it's probably not the right thing to say, but it's not what they need and want. So it's just finding what works for you, and that's kind of why I feel like I've had so much longevity in sport, because honestly, if someone said you need to quit tomorrow, I'd be absolutely devastated. Like I love it. I get up every day looking forward to the day ahead. I just literally love it. So, and like people are like, oh, what are you gonna do after retire? And I was like, I literally can't even think at that point, because I'm just enjoying what I'm doing right now.
Yeah. And loving it has got to make the performances come too, hasn't it? If you absolutely love it, you're going to put your all into the training, and there's no pressure. You just do it because you love it and you know the reason why.
Yeah, and the sun comes up tomorrow, and and being okay with like actually bad races will happen, bad performances will happen, bad training sessions will happen. It's just like me and my friend Claire had like a pretty average swim the other day. It's pretty bad. But it's not a reflection of where we're at. It was just we're both really tired. But we got it done, and it wasn't horrendous, but we got it done together. And like those are the kind of things you also look back on. It's like, because when you say do that session again, you're like going like, I don't know, 10 seconds quicker. You can look back and be like, oh my god, can you remember that one we did the other week? And you have a little bit of a laugh about it. But accepting that those sessions, like I'd say most of my training is very average. Like in fact, it is very average. There's nothing to like sing home about. I'm not smashing PBs or anything like that. But doing average quite consistently in training is actually gives me the confidence, because it's just that finding the consistency in that. I think for any youngsters listening in, it's just just find what makes you happy and write those things what make you happy down, because if you just channel that and try and incorporate all that into what you're doing, and it will make you it a lot easier going forwards in terms of your journey, your progression, and longevity in the sport. Because if these kids come out 18, like, golly, like I wasn't even doing the sport I'm doing now. Like at 18, I still couldn't swim. Like at 18, I think I was, I hadn't even found rowing yet, so I hadn't even started that sport. Where I had 6 years in that sport. So you're just so young, you've got everything ahead of you. So many opportunities, and what you're doing right now might actually, you might not even be doing that sport in like 5 years' time, but it could be the best stepping stone for that next sport, or that new job, or that new pathway if you're going to go into anything. Like, you've got your absolute world ahead of you.
Yes.
And I believe that each sport I've done so far has been a stepping stone to where I am today, and each one has given me so many skills, whether it's been mentally or physically, but so many skills to where I am today. There's no way I'd be doing like triathlon without all those stepping stones.
Yeah, that is really, really good advice too, because I think maybe everybody thinks everything has to happen like super, like now, and it has to be on this particular pathway. And if you sort of fall off that pathway and your peers are doing something that you're not doing, you feel out of place and you feel like you're not good enough, or you're not doing it in the right way. But you're absolutely right about the stepping stones, because there's a tennis player who in lockdown went into lockdown as a tennis player. I think she's called Liv French, and came out as a cyclist, and she's now a professional cyclist. And even Lexi, bless her, our lovely tumbler who broke her neck, that will be a stepping stone to her next sport. I think, bless her, she wants to get back into tumbling, but I think her parents are like, no, please don't. But like you say, the resilience, the determination, the hard work, the tenacity that she's put into the sport will take her to the next thing that she does. So that is the brilliant thing about sport, isn't it?
Yeah, and like, if I look back, like, I left rowing mainly because I just kept getting rib stress fractures. Like, I just kept getting injured because I was a lightweight, and I was okay at winter weight, which was like 60, 61. As soon as I had to drop down to 57, I just picked up any injury pretty significantly, like not just a little one, just like actually cracking my ribs, like just very extreme. And that's kind of one big reason why I left the sport. But almost like, as horrific as that was, because I had I'd done my degree, I went on to do my PGC in Birmingham, and I was like a couple of months into it, and thinking, literally setting myself up to be a PE teacher, and then I get the call up for the Girls for Gold initiative saying, okay, you've got into rowing and cycling, kind of thing, like choose one of the sports. So I chose rowing because I'd done that at uni, and like, I had left all that and I moved up north, thinking I'm on a path to go to the Olympics here. And so I could have seen all of that as a biggest waste of time. But no, I do not see it as a biggest waste of time at all. Like, if I had not had that opportunity and learn everything about myself, like, in that time, I would not be where I am today in triathlon, because it set me up perfectly for this sport.
So that, again, it's like, how can we if a teenage athlete has a setback, it's like, what message can we give them to say it's going to be okay? Because at the time it feels like, and you and I have both had injuries, haven't we, last year? We're like, at the time we're like, God, this is a nightmare, it's never going to get it better. But we do get better, and then you kind of look back on it, and there's always a gift of the injury, or there's a gift of doing a sport that you're no longer doing, or it's trying to get across to our athletes that don't worry if there are setbacks, because those will stand you in good stead. And it's so easy for us to say that, but I don't quite know how we get them to be convinced that we know what we're talking about, because we've got age and wisdom on our side.
Yeah, I guess in anything which is tough in life, anything, it doesn't need to be related to sport, time and patience is the healer. And it's just finding out ways to work out how you use that time. So whether it's, like, I'm lucky in this sport, I've got 3 disciplines, like, so I could focus on other things. And at one stage, I was really only able to swim for a good couple of months. Like, I wasn't even able to cycle. But I could channel all my energy into that. Like, this is going to go off grid here, but I also then arranged our wedding because we've been putting off for 8 years. Every year,
gift, isn't it?
Like every year we realise, oh my god, it costs that much money, and like the effort. It is a lot to arrange a wedding. And Bex is like, right, that's your project, and I was like, okay. So focusing your energy on something else, like it can be completely unrelated to sport. It could be something like learning, and go and doing like a little, like it doesn't need to be a degree or masters or something, but it could be a little course online which will help further develop your knowledge and what you do. Whether that's the science behind it, whether it's the physiology, psychology, anything like that. There's loads of like stuff you can put your energy into. Obviously something which will motivate you and, you'd enjoy. But time and patience, and it is like, how long's a piece of string? Like I honestly laugh at when I went to see my sports doctor in December. I was like, I want to be in like, swim, bike, run by the end of January. And he looked at me to say, not a chance. And then he was also like, you do realise this injury you've got has ended so many athletes' careers. And I was like, oh God.
Don't tell me that.
And it was like 3 months on, I had another scan and nothing had changed in my rehab. And I hadn't walked anywhere. I'd only swam, hadn't cycled. I literally didn't walk the dog. Like I literally offloaded completely, and my symptoms had remained the same in 3 months. And I was like, you've got to be kidding me. Like I wasn't pushing off the wall. I think I single leg pushed off the wall for nearly 4.5 months, maybe even 5 months. And I was like, I've completely offloaded this foot. How? Like if someone had told me in October that, you'd probably be returning to run. I think I returned to run in, is it March? I would have laughed. I'd been like, like, no way. But how long's a piece of string? It's just time and patience and finding out ways to fill that time or make use of that time, but in what you can do and not keep focusing on what you can't do. I know it sounds so simple and it's the same kind of corny message people say, but it really is the truth. And, if I look at all the highest achievers in the sport I do, all the people I would love to be racing up against and with, they've been in sport, sometimes in this single sport since they were like 5 or have been swimming since that age. Whereas I started swimming like 24, so lost like 20 years there. No point. I always say that, but there's just no point. This is wasted energy if I keep saying that. But like, if you do look at, say, people have been doing this sport since they were 12 and they're like mid-30s, like that is how long it's taken for them to get to the level they want to. Like it can, other people progress faster, and it's very easy to be like, oh, but they did it in 5 years kind of thing. But there's usually a whole story behind it. So that, you might see that they've become world champion 5 years, but you can't see the 15 years prior where they've been, in clubs, swim clubs, they've been on their bike and running, or they've been an elite runner or an elite swim, bike or run in the past. And it's taken them 10, 15 years to reach that level. So if you're 18 and thinking, why not now? And just like, it could be another 12 years. And that's why it's important to find ways to enjoy it and keep the longevity to ensure you find a way to keep the love for it for those 12 years. Because you could be 18 listening to this thinking, okay, I'm going to give myself 2 more years, where actually the reality is it could be another 12. And if that is getting, say, a part-time job, alongside what you're doing, so there's not so much stress on the financial side. Like Bex coaches an athlete, Rosie, and I genuinely believe she will be extremely good and one of the top athletes in our sport. But she just needs like another 5-10 years, and she works part-time at the moment to kind of take the stress a bit away from that. It's just kind of keeping her motivated and she loves it, so that'll be easy. It's just the kind of, when you tell someone it's going to be in 10, it could be 5-10 years, it does sound quite daunting, but it shouldn't do if you love it. You'd be like excited, okay, amazing, I get to do this for another 10 years, and that is brilliant. And if someone said that to me, you've got another 10 years, which Bex is like, no way, not 10 more years. If someone said to me, you'd be doing this at 10 years, you know, competing at the highest level, I'd be like, winner.
Bring it on. Yeah.
That's the dream. And yeah, just I'm personally excited to see how far I can go in the sport, and I still believe I've got so much more to give. Like, I'm improving a lot, and you know, I've had a lot of time off running. When I say a lot, I mean a lot, but I've got a nice base of years behind me. So that's another thing. If you know, if an athlete gets injured, it's very easy to be like counting down the days and months and weeks you've missed, but actually you might have like 6 years of consistency behind you. So actually don't stress too much on it, because it will come back.
Yes, it comes back, especially when they're so young, and you're so young still. It comes back.
I feel young, but I keep getting reminded that I'm really not that young anymore.
Talking of our age, because this is another conversation we had about sort of our generation. Well, definitely my generation, and your generation was just outside that sort of Facebook bubble on Instagram and social media bubble. So our athletes are right in that. So they've got somehow to manage social media and comparisons and getting sponsorship. And how do they do that? Do they use social media to help them? Because it can be brilliant for that. But then also there's the downsides of social media. What do you think about all of that stuff?
That's a tough one. Like, if I relate it, like Facebook came when I was at university. Like, I didn't have a phone at school, did not have social media at school. I had a bit of social media at uni, but it was a bit of Facebook, not much. So I didn't have any of that. And so, yes, it's completely different times from, you know, but I think, again, you know, going back to, you know, what makes you happy and what you need and what's important for you, because everyone's so different. Like, some people find social media very stressful, they don't enjoy it. Some people love it. Like, I love it, but I do have to mute out a lot of stuff, because essentially social media is on your phone and you get to choose what you see. Like, and there's, you know, like, you can, you know, or you know, like, turns notifications off. Like, that is one of the best things I've ever done on my phone, is all my notifications are up, so I'm extremely present in what I'm doing. So, for instance, we're having a conversation here, my phone's on charge next to me, nothing's popping up, so I'm completely present in our conversation. Yet if I have my notifications on and, you know, I'm seeing something tinging to my left hand side, you know, I have the worst attention span. Like,
like a little peek.
Yeah, literally. So, like, you get to choose how that filter comes through. So if it is something that stresses you out, you know, there's so many things you can do on social media to like make sure you're kind of managing that. And I guess, and you know, you could make a plan. I don't personally make a plan, but I like, because I'm my own manager as well. Like, I manage my contracts, which I really enjoy. For other people, I'd probably say I'm a minority in that area. Like, some people are like, how and why do you do that? I really enjoy it, but for some people that could be horrendous. So actually, there's so many managers out there who can look after you, and they can help you with that side as well. There's loads of management agencies out there, so that could be something you look into, because they could help formulate, you know, a social media plan, or they can then have the conversations with sponsors and say, you know, how can we work together so that it takes the stress away a bit from the athlete. I enjoy those conversations with my sponsors, but I can quite easily see how that would be overwhelming for a lot of people. And yeah, like, if you get emails popping up saying, can you do this and this, like, if that's going through your manager and agency, so you don't see those things, you just get the end part of it. That could be really useful for some people. So that could be something you look into.
Yeah, that's good advice. And going about getting sponsors, is that just, I mean, a bit like we have to do for the charity, we just have to sort of like apply, and we have to write letters, and we have to just do presentations, and we have to sort of ask for our funding. Is it just the same sort of case for you?
Yeah, like, it's very similar, but for what's important to me is actually I use the product, or I don't know, say for instance Hoka. I use their shoes for a year and a half. I actually got offered a contract in my early, actually it wasn't that early, it was like 2017, 2018 maybe.
Mm.
But I was like, oh, my feet, like my history was at that point always my calves, like always had issues with my calves. And I was like, oh, and I'd been with Skechers, and I was like, I don't know, like a new shoe is massive. So I said to them, I'm not going to accept the contract. I'm just going to try a load of your shoes over the next year and see how I get on, because I don't want to accept a contract, wear shoes which gets me injured, then essentially you'll probably lose money down the line because you're wearing shoes or you're injured and you can't race. So actually, and like another one example was Rota bike components. Like I got in touch with them after, I think I'd been with Rota since day one of being a pro. In fact, I had them, from 2016. So I used their products and made sure I liked them before. So I wouldn't suggest just reaching out to anyone because you're desperate for money or product. Actually go out there and try the stuff, because like, for instance, I got offered a wetsuit company with some financial support, but I couldn't wear the wetsuit. And for me, the swim, I can't be losing any more time than I'm losing. And I love the Arc, is an amazing wetsuit, like absolutely incredible, and I wear that because I love it. But yeah, so it's actually, don't just pick up anything or chase stuff, but reach out to local people so you can build up that, like a lot of my early sponsors were local to the Chatham and Gloucester area, and they love that local story. But yeah, it's then understanding how you can work together, those partners, not just I'm going to take this, thanks, see you later. It's actually developing relationships with them, and that's really important to me. Also, like most of my sponsors have been with for 4 or 5 years, and I hope to keep them throughout my entire career. It's just building those relationships and those communications of what works for both of you. And just if you could start that at that age, that is incredible, because there's no way I was doing that at that age.
I get, and they can, can't they? Yeah, and I think they can, because of the social media thing. It can be a way to have a platform and a voice, and a really nice profile to share. So that's good advice. Nikki, I don't want to take up loads of your time because this is, but I'm just going to ask you a bit about coaching or being coached. Obviously, being coached by Bex, which is awesome. And so our athletes, again, they have coaches, but and maybe this is more difficult because Bex is also your fiance, so it's you have a great relationship and conversations all the time. But how do you think the young athletes can maximize their relationship with their coach and to get the best out of that support that they've got?
It's a really good question. I think a coach where you can just be yourself, you can be open and honest with, you can share most, if not everything, with them, and building that relationship where the coach really gets to know you as a person, so they can hear trigger signs or of tiredness, or that if they feel you've maybe got too much going on. Or like Bex, for me, knows me inside out. Like she can read me like a book. She knows if she can maybe put in a bit more, or she's seeing me running and she's like, oh, you're compensating there because of past injuries and XYZ. But she also knows if, like, by looking at me, she can say, oh my goodness, you're way too tired to go and do what you've got planned today. Because a training plan is just an outline. It's not, like putting, it is such a unique outline that you need to go with the flow with all the life stresses you've got going on. And for, kids and stuff, they've got school, they've got exams, they've got so much going on. They've got, social, they've got, just so many things going on. You can't just be like, here's a training plan. You're not a robot. So actually, it's just developing a relationship with a coach where they really get to understand you and can, take into account everything you've got going on.
Yes.
This is the way and the only way, because that's also something I don't believe in. There's not one way. It's a way which it suits you.
Yeah.
as an
Yeah.
athlete. And everyone's so different. Someone's one way might be someone's complete opposite way. Like, I just don't believe there's one way. And also, like, for instance, myself, like, what the block of training I'm doing now is suiting me, but maybe that's only because I've had 10 years of doing something else, kind of thing. It's kind of, it's not this one block is the block which works all the time. It's okay, that's good because we've done a past 3-4 months of doing something else, if that makes sense.
Yeah, totally.
And I think a coach can, it's so hard to maybe put into words, but it's just finding someone who understands you fundamentally, understands everything you've got going on, your personality, like if I'm sat on the sofa in the evening and I'm completely not talking too much, like that's like, maybe we're going a bit too hard here.
We'll tweet tomorrow. Yeah,
and understand, like, I recharge when I'm on my own and just me time. Like, I can't be like if I'm recharging, it's not I'm online doing emails or doing anything, say, sponsorship wise. For me, recharging is just sometimes just going, sitting in my bed with Titch. I put all kind of like phones, laptop away, and I just lie there. Like, for me, that's really good recharging. Or I'll just like stick on something like MasterChef. But yeah, like having a coach which will understand how you recharge as well. It's not just, how am I going to maximize their performance through training? It's actually, how do I also take into account all the recovery side? How is this athlete recharging to ensure they can train, but also do everything else they've got going on? And everyone's so different. Like, some people recharge by being around loads of people and going out socializing. For me, I love that so much, but actually the stress load of that for me is really high. Like, it's almost as high as like training for me. But I can take a day off and spend the entire time with family, which I love to do, and it's something which is important to me, so that's why I do.
Yes.
But the stress load of that for me is sometimes higher than a whole training day.
Yeah, interesting.
And other people, that's not the case. And you can't just say, oh well, that day, it's just a coach can understand you, basically, without me rambling on too much.
No, that's really good, because I think maybe the athletes that we support up until the age of 18, they're kind of maybe in their clubs and their coach isn't somebody that they've necessarily chosen. Because they're sort of in their clubs and that's the coach, and they're all brilliant because most of them are volunteers, and I think they're all awesome. But then maybe as they get older and they go off to uni, some are going off to American universities, and again, maybe if it's that, they don't have the choice. But when they get old enough to have the choice of a coach, it is really about that partnership, isn't it? And meeting lots of different coaches, I guess, and finding out how they work and explaining how you work, and all of those things you've just outlined is super important. And like you say, just having that communication and being able to see the person. I think I love the fact that Bex is with you all the time. She has such a good feel for, just like you say, your body language and seeing you, because sometimes the coaches may be overseas when we get older and they're not even in the same country because we've got Zoom and stuff, which is okay, but not as good, maybe.
And for some people that's great, they don't want their coach there all the time. Like, some people would just love actually the interaction online, and that works for them, which is amazing. Like, and that's why it's so important to work out what's good for you. Like, what I need is completely different to what another elite athlete I'm racing against needs. And some people, everyone works in different ways.
Takes a special coach. Maybe those coaches of teams, they are special people, aren't they? Because they have to understand like 12 or however many people in the squad, not just one.
I'd say most coaches are on like elite coaches, are online. Elite athletes I race against have online coaches, and obviously it works amazingly well for them and that works for them. And see that for them, seeing them at races or like flying over and seeing them for testing or just catch ups works really well for them. I'm fortunate in that I have 100% trust in Bex, and Bex happens to be my other half who also lives with me, so that is a winner for me.
Yeah, yeah. It sounds like you write lots of lists, things that make you happy. You probably write process goals. You're writing stuff down with Bex planning, and you know, maybe that's some good advice as well to the athletes. It's just like you say, write down what makes you tick, what you love, what you don't like, and you know, just really understand yourself as an individual and make it all slot together.
Yeah, and it's funny because actually we don't talk too much about triathlon in the house. Like people probably think we just talk about it, we actually don't talk about it too much. And actually all our planning is out of the house. So like we don't do it in the house, because if we do, we just get distracted, or I'm not fully focused, or so actually I can understand how it would work with elite athletes being online coach, because actually everything we do is out the house mainly, or the planning.
Yes, true. Oh, Nikki, so what's your final message to these I don't want to say kids because they're 18 now and moving on. What's your message to them as you?
I think my biggest message, which I've probably said a million times in it, is finding ways for longevity in the sport. And it looks different for absolutely everyone, and just finding that way for you. Because if someone said to you, I don't know, do you want to be a world champion? It's going to take 12 years. Are you motivated enough to do that? And find ways to ensure that you give your time to progress and not put barriers or timelines on it, so to speak. Find ways to ensure longevity in the sport and enjoying it. It looks different for everyone, but find the way for you.
Yes. Great advice. Oh, thank you so much, Nikki. Been awesome to talk to you as always.
Thanks for having me on.
That's okay.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Athletic Ambitions. We hope you found this episode of interest, and if so, be sure to send this to your family and friends who might also benefit. If you're interested in donating to CASS and Friends, the links are in the description, and we'll hope to see you in the next episode. Thanks, Tom and Fee.